Welcome back to the Print on Demand cast. In this episode, we talk about setting goals the right way in print on demand. Let's get into it.
Radical! Welcome to this week's episode of the Print on Demand cast. Each week, join the gnarly Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print on demand industry and equip you with the totally tubular tools, advice, and strategies you need to achieve success and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now on to this week's totally tubular show.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Print on Demand cast. Happy New Year to you all. We are in 2024, and as much as things change, New Year's change, a lot stays the same. Like my co-host, resident expert Travis Ross, coming from Make Your Mark Design. Happy New Year, man. Happy season 5 of the Print on Demand cast.
Huh? Right, it is season 5. It's totally arbitrary and means nothing to anyone, but
season 4 was long. It was extended versions of Lord of the Rings long, but we're here in season 5 and happy to be bringing content to you in this new year. Travis, how was your weekend? Any festivities? Anything crazy happen? How
too crazy? No? Not too crazy. We're at the age where it's like, hey, let's go to dinner with some friends and then just come home and hang out with them a little bit, have a few drinks and play some games. Yeah, exactly. We actually stayed up really much longer than we normally would.
Sure.
At this age again, on New Year's Eve, because the game we decided to play took for freaking ever. We played Pictionary, and I cannot count the number of all plays that kept passing that stupid, it just we just couldn't finish the game, and so I think we didn't finish. We played probably for 2.5 hours. So yeah.
Wow.
I don't know.
That's a lot. Time. It's a lot of Pictionary.
Emotional damage.
Don't know. Have you ever tried the virtual reality one? Because it sucks. Don't do it.
Nope, haven't and won't.
Yeah.
How about you?
Ours was good. We had some plans that fell through. Everyone was sick. Everyone that I knew up in this area that we were going to hang out with, like their kids were sick, and I was on the team Sunday morning, and 4 of the team members, vocalists, were all sick. So I had Saturday night was frantically pivoting and trying to adjust keys and text the rest of the band, and it was nuts. So, but we ended up going to Josh and Carly's house and having crab legs and cheesecake and watching fail videos for like an hour and a half, which was funny. But, no games, nothing. And then 9 o'clock came and everyone was like, yeah, we're all going to bed. So we rang in the new year at 9 o'clock. And it's New Year's somewhere, I'm sure. And then I came home and stayed up on principle until after midnight just to bring in the new year. But yeah, overall, really, really good. So, but excited that 2024 is here, and we're going to talk about some goal setting. Everyone talks about New Year's resolutions or things they want to accomplish in the new year, and so we're going to get into it. But before we go there, we're going to go to everyone's favorite segment of the show, the weekly dad joke.
Time for the weekly dad joke.
All right, Travis, what do you got for us this week?
Well, I had a friend who was actually sick all through Christmas. I felt really bad for him. He missed all the festivities and everything. So kind of during that time while he was still sick, I decided to go by his house and take some presents and a large bottle of whiskey. Thank goodness he didn't notice that any of those things were gone.
Yeah. I wasn't the sick friend, so all of my presents and my whiskey are still here. So we're good to go. Yeah. So like I said, we're gonna get in. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say some might call me the sick friend, but I was not ill.
You're twisted, just sick in the head.
Killing me, Smalls.
So before we get into the main event, we're actually gonna do something here real quick. We do once in a while here on the show for those listening. You have the ability to rate and review this show. Should you choose to on like Spotify and Apple, and it definitely helps the algorithm. It helps us out. And every once in a while, when we get one of these reviews in, we like to shout out the person that submitted the review. And so we have a new one that we want to shout out, and I think it's a personal favorite of mine so far.
Mm-hmm.
This comes from JLR4. It's a 5-star review, and it's fresh on the 29th of December, just a couple days ago. It says, pod tips and dog training? Yes. It says, thank you guys for imparting so much of your knowledge and experience with us about print on demand. I've listened to so many episodes that my dog is now desensitized to the doorbell. Episode 156 has it twice in the beginning. I listen to the episodes over and over and always learn new stuff each time through. Thanks for keeping it real with a little hand raised emojis at the end. So JLR4, you're welcome. The bill is in the mail for the dog training. You shouldn't have said anything. That's a charge. we offer POD tips for free, but dog training comes at a cost. So, but seriously, you're welcome. That's probably one of my favorite reviews we've ever had. And we did some investigative journalism before this episode and discovered that you are in fact right. It did ring twice on that episode. So
yeah,
you're correct. And so yeah, that was an awesome review.
Thanks for that. That episode actually didn't get post-edited quite the way some of the other ones do. And
no, I have no idea how that happened.
I don't either, but it's pretty bad. It starts out and then I just say, what the heck just happened? And and then there was something weird. It's probably internet issues, but then we tried it again. And so of course the doorbell rang again. So in the spirit of training your dog, here we go. You are welcome.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Hopefully he didn't go crazy at that one either. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into it this week for our main event.
Main event, 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 main event.
All right. So setting goals, Travis. I know everyone has their individual goals. We call them resolutions. And I think January 4th or 8th or something is known as Quitter's Day. But that's not what you're going to do with these New Year's goals. They're just goals. We don't even call them resolutions. They're just goals for your new year and setting them the right way. So, Travis, let's dive into it, man. What is setting the goals the right way? We say the right way. What's the right way to do it? Is there a wrong way to do it? What's that look like?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of things that can be said and have been said on goals. And so, you ever wonder why gyms boom in January, but then mid-February, they're back to normal. It's the reason for this attrition is primarily caused by setting goals the wrong way, honestly.
Right.
And I think it's also comes with an understanding of goals that is incorrect, I guess. So a few problems with goal setting, and I'll just go through a couple of here, and Josiah, you can chime in too. But one of the main problems, or one of the problems, is that you set unrealistic goals.
Right.
I'm going to hit $1 million in sales in 2024. I mean, that's just, you might do that. Sure. And I hope you do. I hope I do.
Yeah. Don't we all want that?
Of
course,
but it's probably not going to happen. And so what then? So obviously that's an easy one to kind of dial in on, just unrealistic goals. Another one is like, you might underestimate the time that it's actually going to take you to get to that goal.
Right.
I'm going to list 100 products every single week, on 5 different channels. And, that's a lot, that's a full-time job in itself. And if you have another job, how are you able to do that?
Yeah.
There might be some VAs that could help you with some of that. That actually might be a really good goal for you, depending on where you're at in your, print on demand success journey. We talked about that on 172, episode 172. Depending on where you're at, if you already have some income, maybe that is the next goal, hire a VA and get to that spot. But if you're just a solopreneur doing this all by yourself, and you've got a 40-hour a week, 50-hour a week job, you're really probably underestimating the amount of time that's going to take to do that. So
Yep.
how do you kind of make realistic goals? I mean, that's one thing, is like the unrealistic goals, but one of those unrealistic goals is underestimating the time that it takes
Right.
to actually get the goal done, you know?
Right. Yep. Another one is doing an all or nothing kind of approach to goal setting. So hypothetically, let's say you're selling $200, you're selling $200 in sales each month, and you say, okay, by the end of the year, I want $1,000 at the end of the year, right? $1,000 a month at the end of the year. And the end of the year comes, and you're only maybe selling $750 a month. Right. And all of a sudden, you negate the legitimate benchmarks on the way to that 1,000, but you don't realize that you went from $200 a month to $750, which is more than double.
Yeah, it's
what
amazing.
Almost 4 times what you were doing at the beginning of the year, but you missed sight of that because your goal was 1,000, and you're now not happy with 750 when 750 is incredible. So why aren't you celebrating those milestones?
Right. Another one is you don't track your progress. You know, you set your goal in January for the whole year, and then halfway through the year, you hear another podcast on goal setting, and all of a sudden you remember that goal you set back in January, and you go look at it and you're like, oh crap, I'm only 25% of the way there, because you didn't keep yourself accountable, because you didn't track your progress. So what are you going to do at that point? Are you going to just totally give up on the goal, or are you going to buckle down and work 3 to 5 or 10 times as hard for the rest of the year?
Right.
Which is going to produce a lot of probably burnout. Either way, you're likely not to hit the goal. And that's just because you didn't track your progress. You didn't set a systematic way to kind of watch yourself get to that goal on the way towards moving towards that goal. And it slipped your mind, and then boom, it's it's gone. And all of a sudden you either have to double down or triple down, or just give up, or reset your goal. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, exactly. So the next one is you set other people's goals. Again, you're listening to a podcast, you're watching a YouTube video, and decide to create a goal based on whatever that person's goal is, which of course there's a myriad of problems with that approach. Primarily being that they probably are in a completely different space or different stage of their journey, of their business growth. And so their goal, while it might be attainable and sustainable for them, won't be for you. And you're up in comparing yourself to that person on the other side of the screen. And I mean, I feel like we talk about this a lot, and we'll continue to in conversation. Is comparison is always the thief of joy. And so if you want to feel real bad about yourself real quick, do that. We would suggest not, and don't that way, and do it in a different way. So like, what do we do, Travis? If you had to if we're going to branch into how to do it the right way, what does that look like?
Well, James Clear wrote an amazing book that I highly recommend. It's called Atomic Habits. And if you haven't read it, I totally recommend. I recommend it so much that I created a special link for people to go get it on Amazon. So just, go to printondemandcast.com/atomic habits. Or you can just open up your phone and go to Amazon and literally type in atomic habits. Yeah. But it's really amazing. We're going to kind of get into some of that and break some of that down. But here's what he said. It's not an exact quote, but it's kind of my edited version of his quote.
Sure.
But this really changed my thoughts on goals. So this is from James Clear. He said, "We think our goals should be focused on changing our results, but the results are not the problem. What we really need to change are the systems that cause those results." And that was like, mind blowing, or, just exploded my brain. And so I've kind of, taken some of that and edited a little bit of it. But to me, the easiest way to overcome this whole like goal failure, if you will, this problem of starting, gung ho in January and then falling off the wagon by mid-February or whatever that is. To me, the easiest way to overcome this is by knowing or understanding the difference between achievement-based goals and habit-based goals, or as James would put it, the difference between results-based goals and system-based goals. And so I've always kind of called it achievement and habit-based, but so we'll kind of use that language, but you understand the idea. Now, for some of you guys, this is really going to bring you into a new headspace for goal setting. At least I think it will. And I think it's really going to unlock goal setting in its entirety for you. So I think this is really, it did for me. So I hope it does for you. So let's jump into the difference between an achievement-based goal and a habit-based goal.
Hey, sorry for the interruption, but we wanted to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you by Spotify for Podcasters. Really cool app. Josiah and I use it for every single show that we bring to you every week. You can edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating as soon as you log into the platform. You can easily distribute your podcasts to Spotify and everywhere else the podcasts are heard, just like we do every single week. You can also create video podcasts on Spotify, which is really cool. And of course, you can earn money like I'm doing right now by including ads and even podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. There's no catch. We really love it. We use it every single week. So we encourage you to go download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So achievement-based goal is a benchmark. It's a finish line to cross. We talked about, wanting to do $1,000 in sales at the end of the year, a month. So that's an example of an achievement-based goal. But here's what you must understand about achievement-based goals: is any attempt to put a timeline on this kind of goal is what I call a WAG, a wild ass guess. It's an estimate. You know what I mean? Like, it's the best you can do to try and approximate. It's going to be. There's no real way to know for sure. So, but that's because these types of things you're setting goals from can't be controlled. Money, number of sales, they're not. It's hard to really. You know what it takes to get that monthly sales, but you don't know how to get there. It's not really quantifiable, the process of making that thing happen. So
it's basically, it's like anything that you can say, oh, I want to get this. Particularly would it. There's just no way for you to say, I'm going to make this amount of money. Right. Because you can, and we're talking about with the habit-based goals, strategizing for that with things that you can put into practice that will eventually get you to those things. But if you put a timeline on these things, it just doesn't work. You just can't,
Yeah. And the irony of this is that, both winners and losers have the same goal. Right. like the Broncos and the Bills both wanted to make the playoffs. That's the goal, to make the Super Bowl.
Right.
One of them will, one of them for sure won't, and one of them is in contention. It has the same goal, but it's not the same outcome. Every marriage starts by saying vows that promise to stay together forever till death do us part. And we know the statistics of divorce. Like, every pod seller wants to make more sales. It's like, the sky's blue. I want to make more money. I want to make more sales. It's all very much obvious, right? But this should clue us into the fact that a goal to reach some milestone is not enough. It's hard to get there because you don't have a system.
Yeah, you're saying, I want to have this result, and the result isn't the issue. It's like you said, it's like James Clear said, it's actually the systems. Another example might be, you set a goal to lose 50 pounds in 6 months. But you get to that 6 month mark and you've only lost 40 pounds,
Right.
So how does that make you feel? A lot of people, they'll actually quit because they didn't meet that goal. I mean, that actually happens. It makes no sense. But it happens all the time. It's because you don't have control over how much you lose.
Right.
It's literally a guess. I mean, yes, you can affect that, how much you lose. You can have an effect on it, but you can't actually. It's the same thing with, making the playoffs. I mean, you can't account for the
Injury.
NFL's officiating crew to, totally screw you out of a
Yeah.
game every
That's a very
other week.
Chiefs fan thing of you to say.
It might be.
Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, and you can't control injuries. You can't control. I mean, I feel like the NFL is riddled with injuries this year.
Sure.
So many
100%.
starters are gone, and so I mean, the New
just,
York Jets.
On an aside, I just want to say, you could say that, but on an aside, I saw a thing. It was all of the starters in the AFC that were like content, and there were like 5 quarterbacks left that started the year with that weren't replaced by either injury or poor play or whatever. But I mean, so to your point, holy crap, you can't. It's a guess. You know, this whole thing is a guess.
Yep, absolutely. There's no, the
what
New
were you going
York
to say about the Jets?
I was just going to say they get Aaron Rodgers and they think that their ship has come in, and the first play of the season for him, he snaps his Achilles.
Yeah,
they're done. It's completely gone. That goal will not be met because they had no control over that. So, so habit-based goals, conversely, on the flip side of that coin.
Well, let me just say we're not saying don't set timelines.
Sure.
You just have to be okay when you don't make that goal because it's a guess. So like the person who wants to lose 50 pounds in 6 months, you just have to be okay that you only lost 40, which is still amazing.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
That can make a world of difference in your health and your vitality.
Mm-hmm.
That's still incredible. But again, you won't feel that way because your goal was 60 or 50, but you only got 40. So, yeah. So habit-based goals are based off of a measurable task. It's got to be specific. There's SMART goals is a thing that's out there that you can use to kind of quantify. But for example, you want to create 25 listings per week or comment on 10 niche related IG posts, Instagram posts per week. That's something that we do transparently, on our social media. We will try and seek out, we follow hashtags, we comment, just to be in the conversation, not necessarily to shill or sell, but just to say, hey, that's awesome. Great job. Keep up the great work, what have you. So that's a goal, and it's measurable that we have each week that we're going to do. They're very easy to know if you complete them. It's either yes or no.
Right.
Another goal that we have is every episode have at least 2 Instagram reels, if not 3. Did that happen? Well, you could pretty obvious if it did or not have it. It's a yes or no.
Right.
Now the word try can't be a part of these habit-based goals.
Right.
Specific and measurable, and accountability is super important in this. And you a coach, for example, having someone that's there to kind of hold your feet to the fire and make sure that these things did get done and help ensure that there's a consistent, achievable, measurable goal each week.
Yeah. These are the type of goals you actually want to put timelines on them. And then from there, and we'll talk about this a little bit, but you back them into bite-sized chunks. So if you want to create 100 listings per month, well, how many is that per week? How many is that per day?
Right.
So here's the thing.
Tell us the thing, Travis.
We don't want to tell you what goals you need to have.
Right.
There are some things that would benefit you as a print-on-demand seller and benefit me, and et cetera, et cetera. And we talked about the print-on-demand success journey and the different stages you might be in on episode 172.
Right.
Go listen to that episode if you haven't already.
Yes.
And it's because that'll give you some ideas of how to get from one stage to another,
Right.
And it's growth. That's the thing, heck, use those tips to make your goals. What we want is growth.
Yeah.
So any type of growth in your business theoretically is a good thing. And so that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about how to make, or what types of goals or what your goals should look like. We're not necessarily saying, oh, you should do this and this and this and this. But we just want growth, so whatever growth means to you, because it means a lot to different people because they're all in different stages.
Right. So the question is how do you then use the goals to grow? both types of goals together. Here's an example. You can set an achievement-based goal. Travis is currently dying right now. His goal
I'm alive again.
is to stop coughing, and that's a measurable goal. But the thing is, he doesn't know when it's going to happen.
You're right.
But he wants
it's
it
achievement
to happen.
based.
It's achievement based. He wants to tell himself to stop coughing, but he can't. Everyone's for free. Okay, so anyway, how do we use goals to grow then? Use both types of goals together, a hybrid system. So here's an example. Set an achievement-based goal,
right,
of $500 a month in revenue. Then set 2 or more habit goals to go with that achievement goal. So you want to create 10 designs per week, add 10 designs to 5 products per week, and list. That's 50 listings. That's again, get 50 listings, I got 49. Well, it's a yes or no question. And then make sure to review your progress, and you'll know how you'll work best. Give yourself daily goals instead of weekly. Consider doing that. I know for me, it's easy for me to give myself daily goals, because if I look at my week, in terms of content creation, whether it's for this show, doing reels or posts, or for my church, I look at my week, I can get super overwhelmed with what I have to do. So it's easier for me to give myself quantifiable daily goals that I can set that will help me achieve the overall weekly goal. So
exactly,
you can create yourself a daily or weekly tracking system to help you know what stage you're in for which project, or, okay, I've got 25 listings. I think of, I can't remember his name. We went to he was in Las Vegas at the Wholesale Formula. Trent Deerschmidt, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So for him, I remember him talking about he had a goal of calling 50 people, 50 cold calls, whatever. And the way he would track that is you would have one tray of paper clips full of paper clips and one cup that was empty. And every call he would pick one up and he would just put it on the other plate until the 50 were on the other. So that was his way of tracking his progress. It's not as efficient maybe as a CRM or spreadsheet or something, but that's what I think of when I think of, and I used that when I did insurance. I was like, okay, this is going, I had made so many calls a day. So, but then go ahead.
That's the idea of, how you'll work best. Do you need that every single day kind of reminder, or that, or do you say, okay, if you're going to do 50 a day, well, in my work week, I'm going to do 250 this week, but the challenge with that is, the further out you put that, what happens on Friday when you've only done 75? Do you have to do the rest of them on that day, or are you just going to be okay? So yeah, I mean, the idea of breaking them down into smaller bite-sized chunks is great, but then the idea of reviewing your progress is super important, because, you might be able to be okay with just knowing that I have to do around 50 every day to get my 250 a week.
Right.
But you also might need a daily tracking system, a spreadsheet or something that just that you fill out at the end of the day. What did I get done today? We recently, for the podcast, we just put together a Trello board for our different things that we're doing with each of the podcast episodes, and what has to be done. And there's checklists and all of that stuff. And so we'd move each episode down the Trello board into different lists and stuff like that. That may help you, and frankly, when we talked about setting this up, we didn't know if it was going to help us. We're just trying it out, and hopefully it does. And I think as it goes, it's going to morph into other things, and we're going to realize what we're good at and what we're not so good at. And we're going to try to put systems in to correct those things. But the idea is, you take both of these types of goals. You have an achievement goal. Of course, everyone, it's a good goal to want to make $1,000 a month in revenue on print on demand. That's a good goal. But if that's your only goal, or, or, hey, I want to post more on Instagram. I mean, that's not going to help. You have to have 2 or more habit goals that are going to help you achieve that. And you could put it, on your achievement goal, you could put a timeline, but just understand that A, that's a guess, and B, it's really going to be the habit goals that get you there. It's not setting this achievement goal and then you just put it on a wall and, mentally ascend to it each day and believe in it or whatever.
It's the dream boards or the vision boards,
Right.
or it takes more. Like, again, we talked about using wanting to lose weight as an example. Well, you do that, that's fine, it's great to want to lose weight, but there has to be those habit goals that will then reflect in you losing that weight. Because if you don't do that, then you can want to lose weight all day, but unless you do something, nothing will happen. Trust me, I know.
Yeah. So create a couple of habit goals to go with that achievement goal. I will go to the gym 4 times a week, period.
Right.
5 times a week, whatever it is. I will do 25 push-ups, every morning before breakfast,
Right.
whatever. That becomes a habit, which then brings you toward your achievement-based goal.
Right.
So yeah. And then you just rinse and repeat, but one of the things, don't focus on too many goals at once. Don't have so many achievement goals
Right.
that, those are breaking down into 2 to 3 to 4 habit goals. And you've got like 70 things to do every single day.
Right.
That can become overwhelming. So, we do have a few additional tips on goal setting that we have touched on a few of these. We're just going to reiterate them.
Yep.
But I think because they're worth mentioning again, so we just talked about breaking bigger goals down.
Yep. Into milestones.
That's a huge one. Making it easier, bite-sized chunks that's beneficial.
Yeah. And you can do, you schedule specific times to work on specific goals. And so if you looked at my calendar, my Apple calendar, I have all these events in my calendar that let me know when it's in the mornings, do this, work on this, here's work on this content, do this, things that I want to do overall. So you can schedule specific times and time block. Time blocking is huge.
It's huge
because if you don't do that, it's time blocking is a good way to mitigate the shiny object syndrome, where you're like, you have so many things to do, and they might not even be shiny objects that are distracting. They could just be things you have to get done. They could be goals, but if you don't set specific times to work on specific goals, you'll find yourself hopping to different projects, and you don't know if nothing really feels like it got done because you're going back and forth to stuff that needed to get done, but there was no intentionality and kind of framing in time to work on things. Like, okay, from 9 to 10:30, I'm cranking out designs. From 10:30 to 11:30, I'm going to list those designs. I'm going to create mock-ups. I'm going to, create training videos. From 11:30 to 12:30, I'm going to lunch or whatever. But time blocking is massive, because then you can see what you have to get done, what you will get done, but you can discipline yourself to not jump out of order. So you feel like there's a continuity to your day, and it doesn't feel like you're just all over the place.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've all heard that, a lot of successful people talk about how they only look at email, for 15 minutes in the morning and then 15 minutes in the afternoon. And the rest of the day, it's just blocked out with specific tasks. You can get a heck of a lot done if you really stay focused for 3 hours, and to be fair, not everyone's doing this full time. You might have to do it in the evenings, and maybe you can only get an hour or 2 in the evenings, but all the more reason to block out that set of time specific to your weekly or daily goals, because you don't have the time to make up if you get into that 2 hours thing, and then you're just shiny object syndrome all over the internet. And pretty soon you're looking at some AI program that somebody made. And it's kind of preaching to the choir right now, but because AI is cool, but yeah, you need to focus and spend that time, on the thing that you're actually trying to work on at that time. So another kind of thing, a tip worth mentioning again, is make sure to track your progress and your metrics. Don't just set a goal and be done with it. Make some type of a system. Maybe one of your goals is to create a system that tracks their progress on some of your other ones, and so that's a goal. And so what does that goal look like? Well, build a spreadsheet this week that tracks these 4 things. All right. Okay. So now that is done, and your other achievement goals are being tracked now, because one of the goals that you started with actually helped you get to that place that you could track the progress. So
Right.
that's super important. Make sure you track your progress, or it just won't work.
Yeah. Yep. And we talked about this as well. Travis alluded to it at the top of the show, but don't be afraid to adjust your goals. It doesn't mean that you failed, right? You want to be malleable. You want to stay flexible. You could, again, you want to make $1,000, but you hit 750. Maybe midway through you realize, okay, well, maybe 1,000 is not going to be achievable, but I know I can hit 600 a month, and then you hit 750, and you've then outperformed that goal. Or you know that I can do 750 now that I'm thinking about it, and then you hit that goal. So don't be afraid to adjust the goals. They don't have to be set in stone, because again, I think that produces some undue pressure that is all internal, not necessarily external. There's no external things that are causing you pressure, right? There's internal pressures, external pressures. You put this internal pressure on yourself that doesn't really exist from anybody else, because you haven't met that goal, but maybe you just weren't willing to kind of reassess and think like, okay, well, let's shift that a little bit. I'm still going to be improving, and I'm still going to be tripling my sales volume, but it's just not going to be $1,000. And maybe next year it's 1,000 a month, or maybe the next 6 months is hitting 1,000, but just being okay with giving yourself a little bit of grace and a little bit of time to reevaluate some of those goals.
Yeah. Another tip would be to reward your progress on the way towards those goals. One super cool thing that you can do is to gamify your progress. And, that could be like, once I, hit 500 listings in the course of this, I want to build 1,000 listings or whatever, or every 100 listings I get, this sounds silly, but I get to reward myself with a bowl of ice cream, or I get to, go get a beer at the local brew pub or whatever. Or, it could be anything that like would actually motivate you, and you literally would put that in your tracking. So you can see how you're, hey man, I'm really close to getting my next, reward, if you will. But I think that the idea of rewarding yourself can sound or can feel silly, because it's like,
it can feel a little trivial. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's like, I can have ice cream any damn time I want, I can go get a beer at a brew pub anytime I want. But if you tie it to your goals and you like really actually, it could be a whole other set of different rewards for yourself. But the idea is to keep yourself motivated by rewarding yourself. And it could literally just be, every time I get to a certain milestone, I tell my significant other. And when you've made that goal, you told her or him, when I tell you that I've made a milestone, I want you to really be just excited for me and congratulate me and just be in my corner.
Yeah.
And then you get to do that, and they are all, hey, that's great. That is so cool. What's the next milestone? And there's there's an accountability and a motivation, factor in that kind of relationship, so those are just some ideas. But gamification is really, it actually works for motivation.
Yeah. I feel like we should gamify our progress as the Print on Demand cast for 2024. I kind of jumped the shark, but there'll be a lot of ice cream and beer.
I know. I was just gonna say, you just want to drink beer. So.
Yeah, you said that, and I thought about when we were in Long Beach last year, because we hit breweries and we also went to Cold Stone. So, little insight to what we do when we travel as a tandem. Lots of craft beer, and if there's a Cold Stone on the corner, we might also hit that up. And Jersey Mike's, it was awesome, and the Jersey Mike's was delicious. So anyway. Next thing you do is engage a community, like Facebook groups, or hire a coach for accountability. People who will also cheer you on, who are on a like journey, right? They're similar journey they're building as well. But people who will champion you, give you advice, keep you accountable. That's huge. It goes back to what Travis was saying about your significant other just celebrating goals with you. That's the same kind of concept here as well. again, don't take on too many goals. We've said that already, but it's worth reiterating because that's a way for you to feel super discouraged if you've taken on 10 goals and you only have the actual capacity to focus on 3 or 4 and the other 6 are lacking. Well, you just chose too many goals. Like, just space it out and give yourself some time. Understand, keep a good, the other thing about having a coach or community or your significant other is to have someone play devil's advocate and help you understand your bandwidth if you're not doing this full time, like Travis said.
Right.
Give you some context and perspective of like, that's awesome, but do you have time to do that? My wife is super good at that because I'm the guy that's like, hey, I have this idea, or I like this idea, or I want to start this. And she's like, that's cool. What are you doing though? Like, you don't have time. Right. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. And I've come to a point where I don't feel like she's just, taking a poop on my hopes and dreams, but she's looking out for my mental health because of that. And that goes to the last one, like maintain balance with business and personal goals. Goals as well. Wow, that was a weird thing I just did.
True international average of pressure.
I agree. I mean, I think when we think of goals, for the most part, we think of them as like business or work goals.
Right.
Those are usually the types of goals that we talk about. I mean, there's the, hey, I want to lose 50 pounds, or I want to go to the gym, or I want to do those types of things. But we don't necessarily focus a lot on our relationships. What are the goals in our relationships? What are the goals with our family, with our kids, or with our parents, or what, those types of things, because we kind of take those for granted a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that the balance part that you're talking about is really important, with your business and your personal goals, because your business definitely can take over if you're really gung-ho about it, and maybe you have a propensity towards that anyway. Just be careful, and just try to maintain that balance, and maybe make a relationship goal, as one of your goals, and maybe make a spiritual goal, if that's your thing, or maybe make just different segments of your total being, and make some different goals. You can have more business goals because, those are probably easier to kind of set, because there's just metrics that you can really see. It's like hard to say, I want to make $1,000. There's not an equivalent. I want to make $1,000 with my wife, or that's I don't understand. I don't know how to make that equivalent with my wife to my business. I can see $1,000 in my business. I can't see what that would equate to in my relationship with my wife, but you get the idea. I went way too long with that, but in the end, the idea with this whole podcast and with this whole thing, it goes back to that James Clear, Atomic Habits. It's not so much the results or the achievements that are the problem. It's really, it's the systems, it's how you get to those things. It's the habits that you make. So, focus on those systems, focus on those habits. Those are the things that are going to move you forward and eventually toward your results and your achievements. And so when you're goal setting, don't focus on the results, focus on how you're going to get there. And that's really, if you had to take one thing from this podcast, that's really it. Focus on how you're going to get to the goals, not what the goals are. The goals aren't important. The Denver Broncos are going to be sitting on the couch watching the Chiefs play in the playoffs, even though they both had the same goal at the beginning of the season to make. And
even though their records aren't that there's not that much distance between their overall records.
Hey, cool it, guy. All right, you just slow your roll there, Mr. Bills fan.
Yeah,
but you get the idea.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see you in the playoffs. That's all I'm saying. It'll happen. It's gonna happen.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man, awesome. Well, guys, I think that pretty much kind of puts a bow on that main event section for you. Again, it's a new year, new goals, and take time. And we alluded to this as well, but take time and assess 2023, how far you came in 2023. Have some appreciation. Take some time to really let that soak in, and how far you came from from the beginning of 23 to the end, and then kind of with that perspective of gratitude and thankfulness, start setting goals for 24. And yeah, it's going to rock and roll. We're excited to see where you guys go in the next year and the progress that's made. And of course, Travis and I are available. You want to share your goals, you want to reach out to us and ask for help, goal setting, whatever that is, do that. We want to talk to you. We'd love to interact with you guys as well. And so one of the things that you can do as well is you can sign up for our newsletter, or we're calling it now the podcast VIP list, which is a nice way to make it seem it's a velvet rope experience. You understand? We want you guys to be a part of this list, to be a part of the group. We're going to be sending exclusive tidbits, tips, tricks, advice, content that's only going to live in the newsletter that you won't be able to find here on the main source, the main stream of the podcast. And so to do that, you just go to printondemancast.com, sign up, and we're not going to spam you. We're not going to beat you to death, but you are going to get some unique and exclusive content to you and a bonus dad joke, which is the best, right, Travis?
Oh yeah, baby.
Oh yeah. Anything you have to say about the VIP list? Like, kind of, I mean, honestly, our goal is to get more content out to our listeners. That's a goal, and help them and equip them with more tools. So, I mean, anything you want to say and kind of speak to in terms of the VIP list?
No, I mean, not really. Just, it's a lot of times it's a kind of a recap of what we talked about, with maybe a little bit of a different spin on things. You can see some of the things, what's going on in my life. And obviously you get that extra dad joke. But if you do go to printondemancast.com and you sign up for the list, you will get a downloadable PDF that is the annual design calendar that will help you kind of organize what you're designing for in any given year. It has a lot of different events and things, not only events, but seasons and all of that stuff kind of on the left. And then when you should be actually designing them and when those things should be listed. So it's a real easy kind of 1, 2, 3 punch to help you get more content and more products out there on the market. And that is, it's our gift to you. Hopefully it helps. And you can add to it if you want, and, just kind of make it your own. But yeah, go to printondemancast.com, sign up for our VIP list, and you'll get that right away. And then, you'll just get kind of updates. Hey, we posted a new podcast, and here's kind of what it's about. Here's some extra, things about it, tips and tricks, things like that. I mean, you've all read an email before, so I'm confident you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, you will recognize it when you see it. It is, in fact, an email. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Means the world to Travis and I that you guys are here each and every week. And we hope this episode helped you out. And we look forward to being back with you next week to give you more tips, tricks, and dad jokes. So till next time, for Travis, I'm Josiah, and we'll see you right here. Same print on demand time, same print on demand channel, the Print on Demand Cast.
See ya.
Hey, babe. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We hope you enjoyed the Totally Tubular Show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Want to be wicked nice? Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next time, for sure.